Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mayor Sal Bonaccorso. I'm joined here today by our Superintendent of Public Schools, Mr. Edward Grande. Ed, how are you today?
Doing good. Thanks for being here with me, Mayor Sal.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. You know, we've had some issues this year with budgets on both sides of the street, honestly. But I know yourself and the Board of Education have come under some questions about certain things that went on. You and I have met. We spoke about your budget earlier in the year. I've watched your budget presentation on TV along with the Board of Ed, and I believe you pretty much put it out there and answered all the questions. But unfortunately, as you know, and I know, people in our positions, the worst thing that can happen is when the rumor mill gets started and things aren't being talked about in a, how would you say, honorable way. Not that people are intentionally going out trying to say things that are wrong, but it gets mixed up in the mix and things are out there in the wrong way, and then people start saying, well, what about this and what about that? And I know it's a lot of questions you have already answered. I know with our budget, your budget this year, there had to be some cuts, some things that I know, talking to you one-on-one, that you did not want to have to do. And I know the Board of Education did not want to have to do. But you had to do it because of the state cap and what you're allowed to tax and not tax under the laws of the budgetary cap. And I'd like to open up with a question that's kind of really irking me because I know the answer to it. You've explained it, but out in that rumor mill on social media, I keep reading this at least once a day, and I really want to get this put to bed because this is not something that I know you want to hear out there, and I certainly want to hear. What happened to the $2 million? Is there $2 million missing?
Thanks for asking that question and giving me the opportunity to clarify that for our community. In the 15-16 school year, and the way school budgets work for those of you in the community who may not know this, we lived a budget in the 15-16 school year. And at the end of that year, we get an audit, which we get annually, and we get a figure called excess surplus. And that's the money that we're allowed to carry into the budget, not for that subsequent year, in this case 16-17, but a year later, in essence a 2-year cycle, 17-18, which is the budget under question now. So for that 15-16 school year, we had no excess surplus because of primarily 3 factors that happened. The first factor, our special needs students needed to go out of district at a rate beyond what we budgeted for. And along with that tuition comes the second factor kind of under that special education envelope of the tuition, of the transportation to get them to their alternative sites. And that was to the tune of about $850,000. And then the third piece, which is more a separate piece, but still part of the pie, was the fact that our Garwood revenue was under to about $560,000, which left us, even though we were under in our expenditures for the 15-16 school year, the amount that we were under in expenditures got gobbled up by those additional factors, leaving us with no excess surplus to apply to this 17-18 budget. And there's something called the 2% cap, which in essence is a ceiling that the state, in about 2010, I want to say, told school districts and municipalities, as obviously you know, that you can't raise the tax for the school more than 2% from year to year. So you're up against that ceiling where you can't go any higher. Yourself and Mr. Leza, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, you guys offered us to be able to bring extra revenue in, but the state doesn't allow that. So we're up against that window that you can't go past, and without any excess surplus, it leaves school districts in a very difficult position. So in order to balance the budget for the 17-18 school year, to make expenditures match revenue, we had to make $2 million in cuts. It wasn't that $2 million was missing. We're audited annually. Myself, the Board of Education, Mr. Vizzuzo, we pride ourselves on clean audits, no financial misdoings, but because of those factors, the 2% cap and the no excess surplus, we need to make up $2 million in cuts.
Well, I know, Mr. Superintendent Ed, that you've explained that to me early on, and I got it. It troubled me when we had some of our citizens thinking that $2 million is missing. Like you and me, if I thought somebody absconded with $2 million, I'd be the first person in the FBI field office in Newark telling them to investigate our school district. But
I'll be right behind you.
I would probably have to step around you. That's what I was just going to say.
Yep.
Because none of us in our positions ever want to see anything with the word integrity being played about, because we all pride ourselves on trying to run the most straight, clean operation as possible. Hey, things do happen in this world, but here in Clark, and I'll knock on wood, we've been very fortunate that we've had those mishaps stay well out of our community, and we're very proud of that, not like some other towns throughout the state of New Jersey. I know watching your budget meeting, Ed, that some of the parents, you guys explained the cap, and some of the parents got up and talked to their next question was like they didn't understand the cap, and I get that. We deal with it, so we have to learn it. Citizens may understand it, some may not. But folks, both the municipal budget and the school budget are under a cap. There's things that are out of cap, such as health insurance, because if health insurance was in cap, you would be able to cut $2 million out of your budget every year for the cost of health insurance here in New Jersey. But the things that are in cap in your district, and even in our township budget, are the things that matter. And it always seems like on my side of the street, it's about the services we provide for you, the citizen. On your side of the street, it's about the academics, athletics, and arts that you provide for your children. The state always sets it up where the people who need it the most are the ones that suffer.
True.
Okay?
Well said.
The other thing that you do not have the luxury of in your budget, which we do, is we are able to bond certain projects in our municipalities. As you folks know, we've talked about it for 17 years, road paving, new fire trucks, new DPW equipment. We're able to bond that. It's our township mortgage, so to speak. There's a 15-year cap on it. We pay it off. We've been very frugal. We've been very strong with our bonded debt in Clark. And we've paid down a lot of debt, which I'm very proud of, doing a lot of major improvements in this community. On your side of the street, it's dollar for dollar out of your budget. Dollar for dollar. So when when their maintenance crew needs a new truck at $40,000, we're able as a town to almost take like a loan on that, like you would if you buy a car in your own family life. You have to pay dollar for dollar cash on it. So it does restrict you. Any major repairs that need to be done at the school district, where we have the power of a bonded debt, you guys have to pay dollar for dollar. Now, I have a mayor's meeting coming up here on August 15th, and we are talking about a host of issues that day. I'm sponsoring it along with the mayor of Fanwood. But that's going to be one thing that I like to talk to the state legislature about, is maybe allowing the school districts to carry a debt service in their budget. So you're able to, if you need a new roof, you have to go out to a bond referendum. What happens? That number builds, and all of a sudden you say, okay, we're going to go out, and it's $19 million. And everybody's clutching their heart because, like, where did this come from? But they don't allow you the flexibility to work within your debt service, because there is none, to fix buildings as you go along. It would be like myself, Ed. We pave about $1 million worth of streets every year. If we weren't able to do that and we had to go out to a voters referendum, well, we're going to wait until we need $20 million worth of paving done, because you're not going to do it every year. And then people will say, oh my God, $20 million, where are we going here? But as we do it yearly, it's part of the program and getting things fixed. You did mention something I'd like to elaborate on a little bit, our send and receive agreement with the borough of Garwood that you were short last year. How does that happen? What causes that for the people at home?
A couple of different factors, Mayor Sal, in the sense that the Garwood population in terms of their schools overall K-8 is decreasing. So therefore the amount of students coming to the high school not even when you take into account choice schools such as the magnet schools, just their population, if all their students were to come to ALJ, we would have a lower amount and therefore a lower tuition revenue amount coming in. But then in addition, the way schools are structured today, there's high school choice. And so of the possible Garwood population, students are leaving for other high schools, and that's a trend throughout the state, and I know school districts are trying to fight these choice high schools and bring our kids back to our schools because we're proud of them. So the amount of students coming from Garwood is decreasing, and for the 15-16 school year, that kind of was the root of our budget problems now, that Garwood revenue was overstated to the tune of about $560. Now I know at the board meeting in May there was some public comment that the 13 students that Mr. Vizzuzo spoke about, the decrease in 13 students didn't match up to $560,000. That was because comparing apples to oranges, the 13 students was the decrease for September from 16-17 to 17-18. We'll realize those effects 2 years from now. But the 15-16 school year, that's again the root of everything we're dealing with, was when the revenue was overstated to the tune of $560,000.
So that was from a prior budget.
Yes.
It's coming home to us
yes.
now. Okay. So folks, if you understand what they're saying, is that probably in the 13-14 budget, I would say, roughly?
15-16.
Okay, but I'm saying, okay, the 15-16, they overstated the amount of special ed students, I'm sorry, Garwood students that would be coming to Clark. And when that didn't occur, you felt the effects in the 16-17 budget. Or
17-18.
17-18 budget. Okay, I got to follow it too. That's some of the things that we talk about that can become confusing to the average Joe at home that watches and says, well, what are you talking about? That's how the budget process works. And that's why I think it's important for us to sit here and to talk to our citizens, because they deserve it. They're good people. I know you believe that.
Absolutely.
I'm very proud of that you have your heart and soul in this town every day. What were some of the cuts? Let's start with that. I'm going to ask you about what were the cuts, how many teachers did we lose, and how many athletic programs, but not to confuse everybody. Let's start with some of the cuts that you think were pertinent enough to talk about.
Okay, well, the Board of Education, myself, Mr. Vizzuzo, with your and Mr. Laza's assistance, really scoured the budget sheets, and we got creative, and we did more with less. Next year, we're excited that we're still able to offer some new offerings, like an elementary STEAM program, new courses at the secondary level. But again, we did more with less. We looked at our before and after care enterprise account, which the way that school audits are set up is a separate fund. It's almost like a business, separate from the school budget, and you can only apply those funds towards that program. We got creative and tried to make the links between that program and our school district stronger to be able to funnel those funds in a legitimate and ethical way into the school budget. I'm proud to say we only cut 3 teachers across the entire district, and the 3 teachers that we cut, we were still able to keep. They were more secondary level teachers. We were able to still keep class sizes at a comfortable amount, hovering around the 20s, low 20s. If that, there's plenty of classes in the teens. And again, the program cuts academically. I can't say that one program was cut academically. There may have been classes not offered, but that was enrollment based. If a class, let's say, has only 3 students interested in taking it, that course wouldn't be offered. But again, that's in any year. That's enrollment, not so much budget.
That's very understandable. And I know, having to tell someone they no longer have a job is a very difficult thing. And I know a man like yourself who's a good-hearted individual, it's tough to do that. And I know when we spoke earlier in the year, you said to me that you were going to spread the cuts across so everything felt a little bit of pain or discomfort without trying to hammer one area or another. So you lost 3 teachers, and you didn't lose any academic programs other than enrollment levels, like they would do at even a university.
Yeah, absolutely.
Less people think.
In fact, we put in programs.
Let's talk about, and this is the hot button now, because this is Clark. We could end, and I don't mean this, please, folks, in a negative manner. It's just, I guess, the way we like to see certain things, but we could cut math and science, and this has been said for 20 years I've been in government, and no one would say a word. Say we're cutting a sports team, and everybody goes nuts. But we get it. I'm a father, and I, of course, have participated in this town all my life. But the athletic cuts have really caused some discomfort at board meetings, to you, on social media, and of course to our parents and some of our student athletes. Why don't we talk about that a little bit? I know the first round of cuts you were considering, and this was all considered. Absolutely. At that point. Nothing was etched in stone. I got that. Was some of the varsity sports, which was what, Ed? What were going to lose at the time?
On the drawing board was cross country, swimming, and golf. Golf. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, I know the board had some problems, and some people came out, and I know yourself and your team and the Board of Education sat down and reconsidered it, and then you came up with freshman cuts.
Yes.
Why?
We actually took the input from the students, their parents, and we took it to heart. Like you were saying, in June we had an initial round of teams we were looking at the varsity level to eliminate. But we appreciated the feedback we got. We went back to the drawing board, went through a couple of different, iterations to come up with a final product, so to speak. And what we decided on was we would make some schedule and staffing cuts, minimal cuts across the varsity sports, so that no individual team was targeted, so to speak, so that all of our students kept their opportunities to play. And the decision was made, which I stand by, and I believe it was a good decision, freshman football, basketball, and baseball, to eliminate those sports, those teams, because the students have the opportunity to, quote, play up. And we're still not taking anything away from the students, because they can still be on the field or on the court playing, but just on a different team. And in the case of football, even though the freshman team is cut, and I know this has been some confusion, we're going to have an altered JV schedule through which, because of the contact nature of football, that's not so much the case with basketball and baseball. Due to the contact nature of football, we're going to have a subset of JV games where our freshmen are playing solely against freshmen, so that they aren't put in a physically compromising position.
Right. I know, like I said, that was explained to me early on, and I got it. And, in my own thinking, I kind of thought, well, okay, so let's say you combine the freshman and JV, which, by the way, is done on the girls softball and girls basketball.
Good point.
And they play together. And we could talk about contact and this and that, but, it is what it is. The kids that are freshmen will try out and be on the JV football team, and not every JV team is a powerhouse, so they can get some time there. And then, like you said, you can alter the schedule, the athletic director, to be able to play some solely freshman games to give them a lot of time. And as a mayor and a parent, I want to say to the parents, we need you to be a little bit patient when they're freshmen, if they're maybe not getting as much time as you would like to see. And I know every parent wants to see their kid on the court or the field on every single play for every single second, but sometimes we got to kind of get over that and give them a chance to develop. Next year, those freshmen become JV. They get the lion's share of it at that point. The other thing is, I do know, ladies and gentlemen, for being a parent of the school district and having my two daughters go through, my second daughter's a senior, and my son who's in 8th grade, who will be going into Johnson, not this September, next September. For a school that's a small group 2 school, we offer a lot of athletic programs. We offer maybe more or as many as some of the top group and 3-4 schools in our county. So there's a lot of choice. Maybe it's going to make the student athlete hone down. Instead of maybe wanting to be a 3-sport athlete, become a good 2-sport athlete. That's up to every child and every family to decide. I know when I told my son about this, he said, "Oh my God, what would I do when I'm a freshman?" And I said, "Well, you're going to work very hard at the sport you like. You're going to practice, and then you're going to make the JV team, and you're going to play and work hard to try to get playing time. And if you don't get much as a freshman, then your next year as a JV player, you'll get the lion's share of the time." And we as parents got to be able to accept that we might be going to games and not seeing our children get every minute we would like them to see or every inning out on the field, but it is what it is. There's still an avenue for these children to participate, which I think is the most important thing. And, you know, folks, we have to work together on this because, as the superintendent explained, with the 2% state cap, there wasn't any room for them to say, well, we'll tax everybody $5 a home more and keep the program. It had to be at the ceiling. You've talked about a few teachers being eliminated. You talked about some programs being downsized. I know every budget you had was cut back, and so forth and so on with our athletic budget. But I think, you know, it's important for the incoming 8th grade parents who are going to be freshmen now in a few weeks in September to understand that there is opportunity, and have your son or daughter get ready to go out there and do the best they can and roll from there. Ed, when I graduated and I was in this high school in the 70s, not every kid made every team. There was cuts, and people got cut. And, you know, today, it seems like because of the lack of numbers, everybody is making every team, and everybody's expecting to see time on the court. I see in Johnson, attending a lot of your athletic events, being a sports fan that I am, you have freshmen that are now going right to the JV level, and a lot going even to the varsity level. Back in the 70s, and I don't want to date myself, I graduated in 78, but for a freshman to go to JV was maybe 2 or 3 in an entire school year. For a freshman to go to varsity happened maybe once every 4 or 5 years. Today, it's an occurrence that goes on. I've seen it with girls basketball, you know, where freshmen come in, they get the opportunity, they're pretty good players, but they're going up, and that's to the lack of numbers. And sometimes I think that can hurt an athlete because there's expectations that they're maybe not ready to deliver yet. A freshman boy or girl that's a freshman is playing against a senior. That senior is a man or a young woman. And there's a difference. And there is a difference. So I know your athletic department and your coaches will be able to navigate that for everyone's safety in the best way possible. So I think that was very important to talk about the freshman sports and asking for the people to have a little patience on it. And I think it's going to work out good the way it was explained to me. Again, my son next year, not this September, next September, will be going in as a freshman, and he'll have challenges that he has to deal with. But maybe I look at it as sometimes it's pretty good, because when you have challenges and you have to work, it prepares you for life, because God knows when we're out here, no one gives you nothing.
Oh, life's hard work.
It sure is every day. Why I got you here, how about we talk about school rankings, because we always hear about the school rankings. And, you know, Ed, it's kind of like when New Jersey Monthly puts out the Township rankings, top 100 towns. You know, we've been as great as 24, we've been, you know, in the 40s, whatever. And if you really put a gun to my head, I don't know exactly how those rankings work, how you could be 24 one year and 34 the next year. What's the change? I mean, Clark seems to me to be the same town it was 3 and 4 and 5 years ago. But as the mayor, when I see we have a great ranking, we go out and campaign and advertise on it to the internet, to other people, because it does help our values in homes when people want to move in from New York or Pennsylvania or some of the surrounding areas, that when they Google Clark and say, wow, they're the 24th best town, or our school district is number 40 or whatever, for that it helps. Sometimes you may look at one year to the next like I do and say, nothing changed. How did the rank change? But, you know, it is what it is. It's nothing that I'm going to say is live or die. But on the other hand, when you get it, why not celebrate it? So talk to me a little about school rankings and how it works and what the impact is on our district each and every year.
Kind of to repeat what you said, school rankings are important in the sense that they are a barometer, a temperature of how the school district's doing, and we do take that data and we take it seriously, and we're always looking to get better. So the explanation I'm about to give isn't trying to give an excuse for our rankings, because we recognize them, we always want to get better.
Right.
But in a sense, the rankings are a moving target, And even, like, let's say New Jersey Monthly, when they rate high schools like they do municipalities every 2 years, it's a moving target. So we went from being in the high 90s to then 2 years later we were thrilled we were in the 40s, and then 2 years later we were in the low hundreds, back to around where we were. And it's because what they judge the schools by from year to year changes. 1 year it'll be the amount of computers, no joke. 1 year the ranking factor was the amount of computers bought that budget year. And people were scratching their heads because a lot of more urban schools were higher in ranking. Not that they're not good schools, but they were higher in ranking than they were in the past because they got state aid to buy those computers.
And let me interrupt you. A lot of state aid, which we pay for dollar. That's another show for another program and another day. We can go on about that, but go ahead. Don't let me interrupt you.
And then you may go to another ranking online and we have a totally different number because they may be looking at a totally different factor. They may be looking at the percentage of staff members who have graduate degrees, which we do very well in, and therefore our ranking is higher. So again, not to dismiss them, they're important, we take the data seriously, but we really have to look at our test scores, how our students are performing, what rate they're going on to colleges and universities, and look at the performance reports that are issued by the Department of Education, because those give us a more accurate picture of what's going on in our school.
You know, it is true with the moving target and some of the things. I know 1 year in Clark we had a murder, and that was a 100% increase because obviously we don't have murders in Clark, knock on wood, and very, very seldom. But that was something that could knock you right out of the charts because you say, well, that went up 100%. Well, it's 100% of zero is 1, you know, so it didn't go up from 100 murders to 200 murders, but that's how things, but you know what, you take the good with the bad on all that. And you know, Ed, you talk about the urban districts. Right now, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, the suburban towns and school districts are under assault in the state of New Jersey. We are getting less aid. We are getting over taxed because of the aid that we do not receive. And I know this year the Clark School District received $66,000 in state aid increase. But I know in our neighboring town of Rahway, I believe they were somewhere in over $800,000, and Linden was somewhere over $800,000. And although they're bigger districts and more children, I understand that, but 66,000 to 800, you know, maybe if we got 150 or 200,000 more, and they got 600,000, well, you say, well, okay, they're bigger, they have more people, whatever. And I know as a township, state aid is at a minimal, and I know at a school district it's at a minimal. And now that an issue I've been on, and we've talked about it in conversation, you and I, with this low to affordable housing that I'm really going after with everything I have, is that this is something that in the next 10 to 20 years, like I told the great citizens of Clark, I don't think it's going to happen sooner than that, but could end up overcrowding our schools. Now, if you're following, and I know you are, the 750 Walnut Avenue property in Cranford, where they want to bring 906 apartment units in, some of them to be low and moderate income housing, that is going to force some people from the urban areas who want to be in the Cranford School District, or in fact someday in the Clark School District, because we have good school districts, to want to move in. So they rent a 3-bedroom apartment and they bring 3 children with them. Fine, everyone has a right to a free public education, I get it. But in opening those extra units, let's say those poor children with special needs move in. When you have a site that has 906 units proposed to be built, let's say you get 100 new students in, and Cranford has a cost per student, I think, of around $15,000 a student. But out of 100, if 10% are special needs, that could be $1 million to a school district.
Easily.
Like it did to you when we had an $800,000 shortfall in our budget because special needs children moved in that we didn't budget for because you didn't know. Ladies and gentlemen, I've heard this forever with superintendents that I've worked with in 20 years of government, that Mr. Grande's sitting here with me today on August 2nd, and he's saying, okay, I know in our district we have X amount of special needs students at X amount of dollars. But Ed, am I wrong in telling and saying to the citizens of Clark, between now and the start of school and throughout the year, that number can go up by 1, 5, 10?
Absolutely.
Because it's who moves into the town. And usually those costs are about $100,000 a student, correct?
With transportation, yep.
With transportation. Yep. So, folks, believe me, being a mayor, I got my own headaches to worry about, but I don't envy this gentleman or the Board of Education, because those are numbers that you just cannot budget for properly. And if you try to get cute and budget too much, well, then you're going to hurt other areas of your budget. Why? Because of the 2% cap. So this is the vicious circle that the superintendent lives in, the Board of Education lives in, and even myself and the Township Council live in at times. It seems pretty easy from the outside. But when you sit here and you got to get your hands dirty day to day to make some decisions, it's not that easy. And I think it's so important that we communicate to our citizens, Ed, and I know where your heart is and how important it is to let everyone at least understand. Like I always say, they may not like it, but hopefully they'll understand it. What are you most proud of in the district that you lead here in Clark? What are you most proud of in our schools?
I think we have some really unique offerings. We were ahead of the curve. So often, in just the nature of life, we focus, myself included, on what we could be doing better. But the things that we're excelling at, full-day kindergarten, we were so ahead of the curve on. I sit at our roundtable meetings monthly, and we're talking elite districts don't have those programs.
Okay, stop there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Roundtable, what's that? I know what it is, but tell the people at home what you do.
Superintendents of Union County meet together once a month, usually on a Friday at the beginning of the month, and collaborate and try to make sense of the new state initiatives, budgets, special needs students, and the budgeting needs. And the topic of full-day kindergarten often comes up because now the state is pushing for school districts to have full-day programs. And some of the elite districts in the county can't offer it because of budget, because of space, and we've been doing it now since 2008.
Yes. I got to tell you, my 3 children, 2 of them did not have full-day kindergarten. My third one did. And I remember back in the day hearing parents say, oh my God, by the time we get them to school and they get their coats off and their backpacks off and they have their snack or whatever, we got to go pick them up again. And there's really not a lot of education being handed out because of the time. And then you went to the full-day kindergarten program, and as a parent, I thought it was awesome. My wife and I thought it was an awesome thing for our son to have it. And I also believe, Ed, it's a very great selling point for young couples to move into our town. Because if you're going to look at a town, 2 towns equally, with great services, great places to live, and ours has full-day kindergarten and the other town does not, I think that's got to be a factor in wanting to buy Clark and wanting to go out there and give a good price on a house, because you don't want to lose that opportunity for your family, and which in turn raises the values of properties, and our citizens who pay municipal and school taxes for 20, 30, 40 years get a nice little chunk of money going out when they want to retire and maybe go to another area, because God knows New Jersey is not affordable anymore for anyone. So we appreciate, and I know I'm very proud of your district for having that full-day kindergarten.
Can I say one other?
Absolutely.
And now that's an elementary example. Let's move to the secondary level, where ALJ in many aspects is really a college campus. The amount of advanced placement, now AP is the acronym, and that's advanced placement, college level courses. We basically offer the full menu. We have dual enrollment courses with Rider University, with Union County, with Keene University. Students can really leave our high school due to that mini college campus entering into, let's say, second semester of freshman year. We've even had some superstars be eligible to start college as sophomores. So that's, let's say, a secondary example. Back to an even younger child example, the preschool was something that was married to the full-day kindergarten, and not because I'm sitting here speaking with you today. We're able to offer that because you give us that building for free. And another thing I'm proud of and I'm sure I share the pride with you, is the relationship we have with the town, the municipality, our parents. It's really what makes Clark a great place is because of the community and the people. And you really feel a sense of family in the schools, in the town, and that's something I take a small bit of pride in.
Well, you know, Ed, I remember back 20 years ago when I first started in government, the mayor and council literally hated the superintendent and school board, and it was mutual back and forth. And it was really, really very, very unproductive for the community. And that was one of my goals as mayor when I came in, to start working in a better collaborative manner with everybody. And, you know, one superintendent retired, some board people changed. Before you know it, we have a great working relationship, as you and I do. Some of the other superintendents in the past that you know, you preceded were good people that I worked very well with. And I think the shared services of what we do together to help one another is important, because it does save money, it builds a good working relationship, and we can always pick up the phone to talk to one another. That's why I felt, you know, it was so important for us to sit here today, because I know, you know, it's tax season, people are out the window paying taxes, and they're not happy, folks. Let me tell you, our municipal budget this year has blown up due to our tax appeals have killed our community. Hyatt Hills, we had to pay off $790,000 to Hyatt Hills. Other tax appeals that equal over $200,000, which is, you know, right there, $1 million that we had to raise this year because we had to pay back. I know when people get mad, they say, I'm going to appeal my taxes. Well, when you appeal your taxes, and if you do get a savings, everybody pays a piece of that. And that's like you say, you have your problems, we have ours. We had a revenue shortfall. Our building department in the prior year, prior year's budget raised a lot of money in permit fees, so we did the right thing. We gave it back to the taxpayers, $500,000. Well, last year it didn't do as well. We had a revenue shortfall of $500,000. So I can look at the citizens in Clark with a clear conscience to say, we didn't spend you into a tax problem. We were a tax problem of circumstances. Next year, the Hyatt Hills 790 goes away. That's paid off. We do not have to raise that. Hopefully tax appeals will be down, because right now we're only assessing our homes on about 30% of value. The state has been after us to have a reval done of the community, which, you know, everybody hears that. They want to go nuts, and I get it. But the way we look at it is a third go up, a third stay about the same, and a third maybe even adjust downward a little bit if they're over-assessed. But at the end of the day, that's something for the future. It's nothing we're doing tomorrow, but the state of New Jersey is after us on that. Ed, what is your vision of your school district going forward?
Thanks for asking that, because myself, I was a 1994 graduate of ALJ. I went throughout preschool at Comf School at that time, all the way to senior year at Johnson. I went through the Clark schools. I can't tell you how proud I am to be our superintendent and how good of a job I want to do by our students and our community. We're having to make tough decisions. I get that people, and rightfully so, parents and students can get upset by tough decisions. Any decision that hurts them, I just want them to know the pain I take in having to be a part of making it. But myself, the Board of Education, Mr. Vizuzza, we always do our best to make those decisions with the students' best interest in mind. I really want to see Clark become one of those premier districts throughout the community, increase those rankings for whatever value they hold, and do an even better job keeping our own kids in district, whether it's special needs students through those programs that Mrs. Babbis as supervisor of special services is setting up, or trying to chip away at that high school choice we talked about and making the public aware of what a great campus we have at ALJ, and to keep those kids in district. And I also think we need to, with the times, change constantly in how we outreach to our strong parental groups. Be it Twitter or be it more social media, just keeping up with those vehicles to communicate.
Well, you know, Ed, I got to be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Ed just told you he's the first alum of ALJ to be a superintendent, maybe ever, I don't know, but definitely to come back to his home district to run this district as the chief, as the super, and I know, Ed, your love for Clark, your love for the district. I was the first homegrown elected mayor, and I know the passion I have for Clark and the love I have for this community because I grew up here. I'm an old school guy. I'm loyal. I believe in giving the best. And when things aren't going right, it really makes you sick because you're taking it to heart. This year's budget, I am so aggravated by, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do when we have, tax appeals that you got to pay for and things of this nature. I'm proud that our spending is up very little. I'm proud that our salaries are up very little. We can make the argument that we're doing the right things. Things happen. And I know with you being a homegrown superintendent and the love and pride you have, and that's why I feel a attachment to you because we were kind of out of the same cut, being the first to do this. And I know the hours that are put in. And folks, I'm not here to have a, Ed Grande pat on the back show. It's not about that. But I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes I got to call him at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night when I drive past ALJ. And if you look over the front doors, his office is right above that. And you'll see the lights on at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And sometimes I'll say to him, kidding around, Ed, did you pass out up there? You still working? He'll say, nah, I'm still working. And, that's a guy that gets in the door at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's a long day. I know right now you're working on your current budget to try to keep it as tight as possible so you don't have it blow up on you again next year. I know the conversation we had prior to this show. So, look, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Superintendent Ed Grande and myself, as your mayor, I think we got to have a lot of faith in our superintendent, our Board of Education. It's a tough job. Those people do it for free. Ed's a homegrown guy. He loves and bleeds Crusader Blue. It's important to him to have a great district. There's unsettling times that you have to go through sometimes and just do the best you can. It's very difficult. Difficult decisions are hard, and they're even harder on the people that are making them, not receiving them, because we're the people that got to make them. We're the people that got to tell you about it. So anyway, on behalf of Superintendent Ed Grande and myself, Sal Bonaccorso, your mayor, I want to wish you all the best of the rest of August, Ed. Enjoy the rest of your summer. I know you're in there working every day of the week. To our citizens, we wish you the rest of the summer be healthy and safe. The school year will be coming up before we know it. We'll all be back into our routine, and all the traffic will be back in Clark. Because right now, 50% of the traffic's down to Jersey Shore, and 50%
August always flies, unfortunately.
It flies through. But anyway, we want to thank you all. God bless you for hearing us out. We'll see you again real soon. Thank you.
Thank you.